Good morning and welcome once again to the City of San Bruno. I am Jim Ruane, and as I've said for the last 18 months, I am the very proud mayor of the wonderful City of San Bruno. Happy to be joined today by four members of the City Council, myself. Michael Salazar is here in spirit, and I know he wanted to be here also. Also joined today by a wonderful city staff led by City Manager Connie Jackson. I am pleased to announce that San Bruno has reached a settlement with PG&E in the amount of $70 million for restitution for the citizens of San Bruno. This money will be used for the benefit of all the citizens of our city to help us, as a community, get beyond the tragedy and devastation caused by PG&E's explosion and fire here in September 2010. This is an important and historic occasion. It is also a deeply sad and moving moment. Our city was devastated by the PG&E explosion and fire. We lost 8 souls, friends, family, neighbors. 38 homes were destroyed and many more were damaged. A giant hole still exists in the heart of our community, a scar that will always be with us. A memory that will never be forgotten, and a catastrophe that never should have occurred. As a community, we worked hard to get this restitution to do something important for San Bruno. Still, we know that nothing, no amount of money, no amount of apologies will ever bring back the citizens we lost, the homes that were destroyed, the family heirlooms that were burned, the community that existed before September 9th, 2010. Even with this restitution, we will continue to seek additional settlement from monies from the California Public Utilities Commission as regards the fines PG&E will experience as a result of this explosion and fire. We will be at the table with the CPUC, and we hope they will set aside additional funds for San Bruno as our entire city and community is the victim of this terrible disaster. The city has agreed to cap at $50 million a separate trust fund that PG&E worked with us to establish last year to assure that the city's extraordinary costs are fully covered to repair physical damages and to restore and rebuild after the tragedy. Many of our citizens have outstanding lawsuits against PG&E. We urge the utility company to settle those lawsuits quickly and with an understanding of the urgency our residents are experiencing as they continue to work on rebuilding their lives. Our citizens deserve finally to put the difficulty of restoring their lives behind them. As a city and a community, we had to fight hard to win this restitution. I want to recognize the leadership of the San Bruno City Council, Vice Mayor Ken Ibarra, Councilmember Rico Medina, Councilmember Irene O'Connell, and Councilmember Michael Salazar, who stood firm in the negotiations and are a proud example of the very best leaders that this community deserves. I want to thank Connie Jackson, our city manager, for her leadership in putting together our negotiating team and for advocating our community's interest at every step in her oversight of this process, and our city attorney, Mark Zaffarano, whose legal acumen and tireless work assured the best possible results. Lastly, I want to recognize and sincerely thank our negotiating team, including attorneys Steve Myers and Britt Stratman of the Myers Nave Law Firm and financial consultant Craig Betancourt of Prager and Company. Their support and their skill was vital in our reaching a settlement on behalf of the people of San Bruno. I also want to thank the news media. The watchful eye of the news media played an important role in bringing this settlement about. Your dedication to San Bruno and your ability to shine a light on what is good and right for this community played a key role in bringing restitution from PG&E. And finally, I want to dedicate this moment and this settlement to the memories of the 8 people who perished in the PG&E explosion and fire. The PG&E explosion and fire is a tragedy that never should have occurred. As a community and as a city, we will continue to fight for safety and accountability from PG&E and press them to provide the highest safety standards, not only to our city, but to every individual and family they serve. We and all other citizens must be able to count upon the basic safety of the utilities that serve us. The lasting legacy of September 9th, 2010 is San Bruno's dedication to fighting to ensure this type of disaster is never allowed to happen again anywhere. PG&E and all utilities must uphold the highest safety standards for the safety of us all. I thank you very much.
Jim?
Yes.
Scott from KGO Radio. We know that the negotiations with PG&E have been contentious at times. As things progressed, how would you characterize the negotiations getting to this point?
Well, it's been a long haul. We did have some issues when you're dealing with a corporate entity as large as PG&E, and you're dealing with a municipal, if you will, city family entity such as the city of San Bruno. Sometimes we don't always see eye to eye, but we were able to get that down as of a week or so ago to where we thought we could actually bring this back to the table. The press conference we had a lot to do with it, and I called Chris Johns and said. And he called me. I said, let's just get this done, make this happen. And he did, and we did.
What's the money going for?
That will be decided with a community effort going forward. We won't even talk about it until that money is in fact in the bank, which is to occur within 30 days.
And what's the additional funds you're asking for?
We haven't asked for any additional funds.
PUC.
Oh, I'm sorry, from the PUC.
Well, what will that be for?
That has been some discussion that the PUC has talked to us about, and that will be the PUC's decision. They may want to target that particular amount of money if in fact it's there.
Mayor, you mentioned that you hope that PG&E will settle the lawsuits quickly, but I know you may not be privy to the information, but I mean, do you think that this decision could affect the trial that's expected to happen this summer? Because a lot of residents want that trial to happen and don't just want to settle.
Well, as I said before, we're not really privy to all the details and all the internal struggles that go on between their attorneys and PG&E now. So I just hope that their individual lawsuits can be settled favorably and swiftly.
Why is this a good deal for the citizens of San Bruno?
This, in fact, and we've looked at this from a nationwide settlement issue, we believe it's unprecedented. We as a city have been harmed too. We, in fact, are victims in this disaster, and we brought that to PG&E a number of months ago, and they, in fact, agreed. We've researched other settlements, and a lot of those other, if you will, cash disbursements by other utilities that have had similar disasters, whether they be oil spills or whatever, seem to be more dedicated to environmental issues, but we couldn't find anything where a city and municipality has been paid directly for the damage that it has incurred.
Could you, Mr. Mayor, could you tell us a little bit, be a little bit more specific as to how the city suffered so much damage?
There's not a day goes by when I go to the market or go to church or see people in the streets walking their dog that they talk about the city. Kids still have trouble sleeping at night. As I mentioned before, you know, there's one family up in the Crestmore area, just happened to be in that area, not necessarily at the blast zone, where a little girl or boy says to her father, you know, you're lighting the barbecue, is it going to be okay? Some kids still can't sleep at night, and it's a citywide issue. There's not a day go by that we, as council members and staff, are affected by this. So this is going to last. I told Chris Johns before, I said we want this thing taken care of, because when in fact the neighborhood is rebuilt physically and all we're going to see of you is a monthly bill, we still have a lot of rebuilding to do, a psychological rebuild of this community, and this will help to soothe that.
Jim, given that this was out of court, not related to a lawsuit, what leverage did you guys have? What if they wouldn't give you any money? Was the leverage PR, or what was the leverage they gave?
Well, we came to the table with them, I believe it was back in August, and sat down and said, we feel that there's more than just rebuilding the neighborhood. And they rightfully agreed. They just said, yes, let's work on this and see what we can do. We talked at that time about numbers, and since then we've worked it down to this particular number. So it wasn't contentious in that respect. They finally saw that, in fact, yes, we as a community have been harmed, and they wanted to take care of that, and we wanted them to. So I'm just very grateful that that this has come about, we can take this portion of going forward and put it behind us.
But I mean, did you have other options if they would not pay this?
Well, the attorneys are better off answering this, but my understanding is we as a city really couldn't go after any kind of punitive damages. So it was more of a mutually agreed to effort on the behalf of PG&E and the city.
How is the rebuild of Crestmore going and the school area around it?
The rebuild is going well. We have 13 homes just on the cusp of actually cutting a ribbon, if you will. We have another 13 to 14 in the process of planning and in the process of application. So there's probably 12 to 13 that we're aware of that won't be coming back, but that is happening every day. We also, just last month, approved the consultants' amount of money for the engineering of that particular neighborhood. We have to replace all the sewer lines, all the water lines, all the streetscapes. We have to reforest a canyon. We have to rebuild a tot lot. We have a lot of work to do in the years coming. So as to where it is now, it's where it should be, but it's not where it's going to be a number of years from now. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's coming along.
That's paid for by the trust fund, right?
That's correct.
Now, as far as the 13 homes not coming back, what goes there? Are those going to be empty lots?
Those are some of the things we still have to talk about. Some of those things are still being worked out between the, if you will, the plaintiffs that own their lots and the attorneys and PG&E. PG&E has purchased a few of those lots, and we're talking to PG&E now about the disposition of those. We may purchase those in this $70 million settlement, but that hasn't been put pen to paper yet, but we're talking very aggressively with them.
Mayor, also one more question. I mean, PG&E has also been saying, I guess, in the public and to its shareholders that costs from the explosion, I mean, if they get too huge, it could be a problem. Did that ever come up with the compensation talks in terms of, too much compensation resulting from the explosion?
Well, first I'll tell you regarding compensation, I talked to Chris Johns and I said you could never do enough for San Bruno. So an amount of money that was at a top end was never really our concern. That's a corporate issue. Where that all falls in the bigger picture of things, I think we just have to wait and see. I know they're going to be fined and they'll have some penalties with CPUC. Those amounts we're not privy to, but I would imagine they'd be substantial. But the one thing that they have assured us of is that, in fact, this $70 million will come from shareholders, and they will not attempt to have the ratepayers pay for this, and they will not go to the CPUC and ask the CPUC for authorization to have ratepayers pay for this.
Any other questions or call it a day? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, you said this is unprecedented. I was just wondering if you have any words of advice for other municipalities or cities that might be in a similar situation with some corporate entity like this.
Well, it's probably too premature for me to give advice at this point in time. We're still working through this. The agreement was signed together with Chris Johns this morning in his office and my office here. So I would just say it's probably something that's going to open up the eyes of other utilities around this country. There's always been an expectation, as they should from all of us, you and me both, that the utilities that serve us should be inspected properly and maintained properly. That was not the case here. This could have been avoided. So there are other utilities that are probably watching this very, very closely.
Let's get one more question in.
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of the psychological issues that are still going on in the community and will for some time. Can you touch a little bit on, I know you say that the $70 million, the spending of it hasn't been decided yet, but are you envisioning things like psychological services? What are you envisioning for that?
All of the above. We just don't know at this point in time, but it's a blank sheet of paper at this point in time, and I won't try to delineate any specific item because that's going to be decided by the people of San Bruno.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate your time. Mayor will stay here for a little bit and be available if you have a couple one-on-ones.
Thank you.